What if you woke up one morning and discovered you were 16 years old, but you had never seen sunlight? What if you had never heard another human voice? Never touched grass? Never seen a tree or a house or another living person? What if your entire existence had been a dark cell, silent and still, and then suddenly you were thrust into a world you could not understand? Imagine walking through a city square. People everywhere. Buildings towering over you. Sounds crashing into your ears like thunder. Light burning your eyes like fire. Your legs barely holding you upright because you have never walked more than a few steps. Your mouth forming words you do not understand because no one ever taught you language. You are holding two letters. You do not know what they say. You do not know who you are. You do not know where you came from. This is not science fiction. This is not a thought experiment. This happened. On May 26, 1828, in the city of Nuremberg, Germany, a teenage boy stumbled into a public square. He could barely walk. He could barely speak. He wore tattered clothes and carried two mysterious letters. When people asked his name, he could only repeat one phrase over and over. I want to be a cavalryman, as my father was. His name was Kaspar Hauser, and he claimed he had spent his entire life locked in a dark cell, seeing no one, hearing nothing, knowing nothing of the world beyond his prison. Within months, he became the most famous person in Europe. Within 5 years, he was dead, stabbed in a public garden, murdered by someone who wanted him silenced. But was he telling the truth? Was he really imprisoned his entire life? Or was he the greatest con man of the 19th century? And why would someone want him dead? The mystery of Kaspar Hauser has never been solved. His tombstone reads, "Here lies Kaspar Hauser, riddle of his time." His birth was unknown, his death mysterious. Introduction, 4 minutes, Nuremberg, Germany. May 26, 1828. It is late afternoon, nearly 6 o'clock. The spring air is warm. People are finishing their work for the day. The streets are busy with merchants closing their shops, children playing, horses pulling carts. In the Unsolved Platz, a town square near the New Gate, 2 men are talking. One of them is a shoemaker named Weichmann. As they chat, they notice something strange. A teenage boy is standing nearby, swaying slightly, as if he is drunk or ill. He looks about 16 or 17 years old. He is wearing peasant clothes, a gray jacket, a waistcoat, a silk necktie, pantaloons. His boots are torn to pieces. His feet are bleeding through the holes, but it is not his appearance that is strange. It is how he moves. He walks like a toddler just learning how. His legs stiff and awkward. His balance uncertain. His face blank and confused, as if he has never seen a city before. As if he has never seen people before, Weichmann approaches him. The boy hands him a letter. It is addressed to the captain of the 4th Squadron of the 6th Cavalry Regiment. Weichmann asks the boy who he is, where he came from, what he wants. The boy does not answer. He just repeats the same phrase over and over in a thick Bavarian dialect. I want to be a cavalryman, as my father was. Weichmann takes the boy to the captain's house. The captain is not home. The household staff try to question the boy. He does not respond. He does not seem to understand language. He stares at objects as if he has never seen them before. When someone offers him meat and beer, he gags and spits them out. When someone brings him bread and water, he devours them desperately, as if he has been starving. When the captain finally arrives, he opens the letter. It is written in crude handwriting, full of errors. It says, "Honored Captain, I send you a lad who wishes to serve as king in the army. He was brought to me on October 7th, 1812. I am but a poor laborer with 10 children of my own. I have raised him, but he has never been allowed to take a single step outside my house. He himself does not know the name of the place where I live. You may question him, honored captain. He will tell you that he wants to be a cavalryman as his father was. If he cannot become one, you must strike him dead or hang him in the chimney." There is a second letter. It is supposedly written by the boy's mother. Dated April 1812. It says, "Dear sir, I am sending you my son. His father is dead. I cannot care for him. Please take him into your house or into the military. When you read this letter, I will already be far away. Do not inquire after me. It would cost me my neck. But there is something wrong with the letters. They are written in the same handwriting, on the same kind of paper, with the same ink, as if one person wrote both of them. As if the boy wrote them himself, the captain takes the boy to the police. He is held in the local prison as a vagabond. And this is where the mystery begins. Because over the next few weeks, as the boy learns to speak, he tells a story so strange, so impossible, so horrifying that all of Europe becomes obsessed with him. He says his name is Kaspar Hauser. And he says he has been a prisoner his entire life, locked in darkness, alone, forgotten, until someone finally let him out and brought him to Nuremberg. But he does not know why. He does not know who imprisoned him. And he does not know who he really is. If this kind of mystery fascinates you, if you want to know whether Kaspar Hauser was telling the truth or perpetrating one of history's greatest frauds, stay here. This channel is made for those who want to investigate the inexplicable, for those who refuse to accept easy answers. Because what we are about to uncover is not just a historical curiosity. It is a story about identity, about cruelty, about what it means to be human. And it ends in blood. The boy who knew nothing, 8 minutes, for the first 2 months, Kaspar Hauser is kept in the tower of Nuremberg prison. Not as a criminal, more as a curiosity, a ward of the city. People visit him constantly. Doctors, scholars, curious townsfolk. They bring him toys, food, gifts. They try to understand him. And what they find is astonishing. Kaspar Hauser behaves like a small child trapped in a teenager's body. He is fascinated by the simplest objects. When someone brings him a lighted candle, he stares at it in wonder and tries to grab the flame. He burns his hand and screams in pain, as if he has never encountered fire before. When someone shows him a mirror, he tries to touch the person inside it, confused by his own reflection. His feet are soft, like the palms of hands, as if he has never worn shoes, never walked on hard ground. His legs are weak and unsteady. He walks with a strange, lurching gait, always on the verge of falling. His eyes are extremely sensitive to light. Bright daylight makes him scream and cover his face. He prefers darkness. He will only eat bread and water. Meat makes him vomit. Vegetables make him gag. Coffee and alcohol cause him intense pain. Even the smell of wine makes him drunk. His sense of smell is so powerful that he can identify people in the dark just by their scent. His hearing is impossibly acute. He can hear whispers from across a room, but loud sounds cause him to convulse. Thunder makes him collapse in agony. His sense of sight is equally extraordinary. He can see in near total darkness. He can identify colors and conditions where others see nothing. He can spot and name entire constellations in the night sky with perfect accuracy. These are not the abilities of a normal person. These are the abilities of someone whose senses have been forced to develop in extreme deprivation. Someone who has lived in darkness for so long that their body adapted. As Kaspar learns more words, he begins to tell his story. He says he has lived his entire life in a small cell. The cell was so small he could not stand upright. He could only sit or lie down. The ceiling was too low. The walls too close. There were 2 tiny windows, but they were boarded up. No light ever entered except through cracks in the wood. He never saw the sun, never saw the moon, never saw another human face. He slept on straw. Every morning, he would wake up and find bread and water next to his bed. He never saw who brought it. Sometimes the water tasted bitter. When he drank it, he would fall into a deep sleep. And when he woke up, his straw had been changed. His hair had been cut. His nails had been trimmed. But he never saw who did it. He never heard footsteps, never heard voices, just silence that he had 2 wooden toys, a carved horse and a carved dog. These were his only companions. He would play with them for hours, making up stories in his head, though he had no language to think with, no words to name things, just images, feelings, sensations. Then one day everything changed. A man came to his cell. Kaspar never saw his face. The man wore a mask or kept his back turned. The man taught Kaspar to write his name by tracing letters on paper. He taught Kaspar to stand, to walk, to say a few phrases in Bavarian dialect. I want to be a cavalryman, as my father was. Horse, horse. Then the man brought Kaspar out of the cell. For the first time in his life, Kaspar saw daylight. It burned his eyes like acid. He could not look at it. The man led him through forests, through fields, always keeping Kaspar's eyes pointed at the ground so he would not see anything. They walked for days. Then the man gave Kaspar the 2 letters, pointed him toward Nuremberg, and disappeared. That is Kaspar's story. And when he tells it to the authorities, they are horrified. This is not just abuse. This is a crime against humanity. A boy kept in darkness for 16 years. Denied everything that makes us human. Language, sunlight, companionship, freedom. It is monstrous. But is it true? The mayor of Nuremberg assigns a teacher named George Friedrich Daumer to educate Kaspar. Daumer is a schoolmaster and philosopher. He begins teaching Kaspar to read and write. And Kaspar's progress is astonishing. Within weeks, he can read. Within months, he can write essays. Within a year, he is drawing beautiful pictures, playing music, engaging in complex philosophical discussions. How is this possible? If Kaspar really spent 16 years in total isolation, with no language, no education, no human contact, how could he learn so quickly? Psychologists today say it is impossible. A child raised in such extreme deprivation will be permanently damaged, mentally disabled, unable to function, unable to learn language past a certain age, unable to develop normal cognitive abilities. Kaspar Hauser is none of these things. He is intelligent, articulate, talented, curious. He learns faster than most normal children. This is the first crack in his story. The first hint that maybe, just maybe, Kaspar Hauser is not telling the truth. Maybe he was not imprisoned his entire life. Maybe he made it all up. But if he made it up, why? What did he have to gain? And why would someone want him dead? Because in 1829, just 1 year after Kaspar appeared in Nuremberg, someone tries to kill him. Kaspar is living in Daumer's house. On October 17th, he goes to use the outhouse in the cellar. While he is there, a masked man attacks him. The man slashes Kaspar across the forehead with a knife. Kaspar screams and runs. He leaves a trail of blood through the house, up the stairs, then back down into the cellar, where he hides. When people find him, he is bleeding heavily. He says the attacker told him, "You still have to die before you leave the city of Nuremberg." He says he recognized the voice. It was the same man who kept him imprisoned. The same man who brought him to the city. But no one else saw the attacker. No one else heard him. And the wound is superficial. It looks like it could be self-inflicted. People begin to wonder. Is Kaspar telling the truth? Or is he staging attacks to keep himself in the public eye? To keep people interested in his story? But then the rumors start. And they are even stranger than Kaspar's tale of imprisonment. People begin to whisper that Kaspar Hauser is not a peasant boy at all. They say he is royalty. They say he is the lost heir to the throne of Baden. They say he was kidnapped as an infant and hidden away to prevent him from claiming his birthright. They say powerful people want him dead, and suddenly Kaspar Hauser is no longer just a curiosity. He is a political scandal, an international sensation, the mystery of the century. The Prince Theory, 7 minutes. Here's where the story gets truly strange. Because the theory that Kaspar Hauser was a royal heir is not just speculation. There is actual historical basis for it. In 1812, the year Kaspar claims to have been imprisoned, something terrible happened in the Grand Duchy of Baden. The Grand Duke Charles and his wife, Stephanie de Beauharnais, had a son, an heir to the throne. The infant was healthy, strong. The succession was secure. But then, mysteriously, the baby died. Suddenly, unexpectedly. Just weeks old, the Grand Duchess was too ill to see her dead child. She was told her son had died. She was shown a tiny coffin. She mourned, but she never saw the body. Neither did many of the courtiers. Only a select few people saw the dead infant before it was buried, and this is where the conspiracy theory begins. Because Charles had a stepmother, a woman named Louise Caroline of Hochberg, and Hochberg desperately wanted her own sons to inherit the throne of Baden. If Charles's legitimate son lived, her sons would have no claim. But if the legitimate heir died, her line would rule. According to the theory, Hochberg orchestrated a switch. She disguised herself as the White Lady, a ghost said to haunt the palace. She snuck into the nursery. She took the healthy infant prince and replaced him with a dying baby from the town. The substitute baby was buried. Everyone believed the prince was dead, but the real prince was still alive, hidden, imprisoned, waiting. For 16 years, this boy was kept in a dark cell, fed just enough to survive, denied everything, until 1828 when someone decided to release him, to bring him to Nuremberg, to let the world know he existed. That boy was Kaspar Hauser, at least. That is what people believed. And the theory gained traction quickly, because Kaspar had certain features that resembled the Baden royal family. His facial structure, his coloring, his build. People who knew the Grand Duke said Kaspar looked like he could be his son. A man named Paul Johann Anselm von Feuerbach, one of the most respected legal minds in Germany, investigated the case. He became convinced that Kaspar was telling the truth, that he really had been imprisoned, that he really was the victim of a monstrous crime. Feuerbach wrote a book called History of a Crime Against the Human Soul. It became a bestseller across Europe. Feuerbach argued that Kaspar was indeed the lost prince of Baden, that he had been kidnapped and hidden to secure the succession for Hochberg's line, that the crime was political, calculated, ruthless. But there was a problem. If Kaspar really was the prince, then powerful people had a reason to want him dead. Because if Kaspar proved his identity, he could challenge the legitimacy of the entire Baden royal line. He could demand the throne. He could expose the conspiracy. In 1831, a British nobleman named Lord Stanhope became interested in Kaspar's case. Stanhope was wealthy, influential, and obsessed with mysteries. He traveled to Nuremberg to meet Kaspar. He interviewed him extensively. He posted a reward for information about Kaspar's origins. He promised to take Kaspar to England to give him a new life to protect him. But then something changed. Stanhope began to doubt Kaspar's story. He noticed inconsistencies, contradictions, things that did not add up. Kaspar claimed he had never worn shoes, but his feet showed signs of wearing shoes. Kaspar claimed he had never been vaccinated, but doctors found a smallpox vaccination scar on his arm. Vaccinations were mandatory in Bavaria. You could not get vaccinated alone. You needed an adult to take you to a vaccination site. If Kaspar had a vaccination scar, he could not have been imprisoned his entire life. Someone had taken him to be vaccinated. Someone had brought him into contact with society. His story was falling apart. Stanhope wrote a list of 20 reasons why he believed Kaspar was lying. He accused Kaspar of being a fraud, a conman, someone who had fabricated his entire story for attention and money. Kaspar was devastated. The man who had promised to help him now called him a liar. The public, which had adored him, began to turn against him. People who once believed he was a prince now believed he was an imposter. In 1832, Kaspar was sent to live in Ansbach, a small town, under the supervision of a man named Johann Meyer. Meyer was a schoolteacher, stern, skeptical. He did not believe Kaspar's story. He thought Kaspar was manipulative, attention-seeking, dishonest. Kaspar's life had become unbearable. He was isolated, mistrusted, abandoned by his former supporters. He had gone from being the most famous person in Europe to being a suspected fraud. And then on December 14, 1833, someone tried to kill him again. But this time, the attacker succeeded. The murder that solved nothing. 6 minutes, December 14, 1833. It is cold. Snow covers the ground in Ansbach. Kaspar Hauser has been living with Johann Meyer for over a year. They do not get along. Meyer thinks Kaspar is a liar. Kaspar thinks Meyer is cruel and dismissive. On December 9th, they have a terrible argument. Meyer is expecting Lord Stanhope to visit for Christmas. He tells Kaspar he does not know how he will face Stanhope, knowing that Kaspar has disappointed them all. Kaspar is crushed. 5 days later, on December 14th, Kaspar tells Meyer he is going for a walk in the court garden, a public park near the house. It is snowing. The weather is terrible. Kaspar hates walking. He rarely goes out, but he insists. He says someone has sent him a message, someone who has information about his true identity. Meyer is suspicious, but he lets Kaspar go. About 30 minutes later, Kaspar staggers back to the house. He is bleeding. His coat is open. He is clutching his chest. He collapses in the doorway. Man, stab, knife, gave purse. Hofgarten, go quickly. Meyer runs to the court garden. He finds nothing. No attacker. No weapon. Just footprints in the snow. Footprints that lead in circles. Footprints that suggest someone was pacing back and forth, waiting. Or perhaps faking an attack. A policeman searches more thoroughly. He finds a small violet purse lying in the snow. Inside is a note written in mirror writing. It says in German, "Hauser will be able to tell you quite precisely how I look and from where I am. To save Hauser the effort, I want to tell you myself from where I come. I come from the Bavarian border. On the river. I will even tell you the name." The message is cryptic, incomplete, strange, and it has two things that are very suspicious. First, it contains spelling and grammatical errors that are typical of Kaspar's writing. Second, the note is folded in a very specific triangular pattern. The exact way Kaspar always folded his letters. Over the next 3 days, Kaspar's condition worsens. He mutters incoherently. He talks about writing with pencil. He does not ask about the purse. He does not describe the attacker clearly. His story keeps changing. On December 17, 1833, Kaspar Hauser dies. He is 21 years old. His last words are unclear. Some say he whispered, "I didn't do this to myself." Others say he simply faded away in silence. An autopsy is performed. The wound is deep. It penetrated his chest cavity. It could have been self-inflicted. But it would have been difficult. Painful. Unlikely, the Ansbach Court of Inquiry investigates. They conclude that Kaspar probably stabbed himself. That he staged the attack to revive public interest in his story. To convince Stanhope to take him to England. To escape the misery of his life with Meyer. But he stabbed himself too deeply. He misjudged the wound. And he died by accident. But many people believe he was murdered. That someone lured him to the park. That someone stabbed him to silence him forever. Because if Kaspar really was the Prince of Baden, his existence was a threat, a scandal, a problem that needed to be eliminated. Paul Johann Anselm von Farbach, the legal scholar who had championed Kaspar, died suddenly in May 1833, just months before Kaspar's death. Some said Farbach was poisoned, that he was killed to prevent him from revealing the truth about Kaspar's identity. Kaspar Hauser was buried in the city cemetery of Ansbach. His gravestone reads in Latin, "Here lies Kaspar Hauser, riddle of his time." His birth was unknown, his death mysterious. 1833. The mystery should have ended there. But it did not, because in 1876, a historian named Otto Mittelstadt found official documents proving that the infant Prince of Baden really did die in 1812. There was an autopsy. Multiple witnesses. Court physicians, family members, all confirmed the baby was dead. The theory that Kaspar was the Prince of Baden was disproven. But if Kaspar was not the prince, who was he? Where did he come from? Why did he appear in Nuremberg with such a strange story? And who wanted him dead? In 1996, scientists performed DNA analysis on bloodstains from Kaspar's clothing. They compared his DNA to descendants of the Baden royal family. The results were clear. Kaspar Hauser was not related to the royal family. He was not the prince, so the mystery remains. Kaspar Hauser was not a prince. But was he a liar? A fraud? A victim of cruelty? A mentally disturbed young man? We will never know. What we do know is this. A teenage boy appeared in Nuremberg in 1828 with an impossible story. He captivated an entire continent. He inspired theories, books, plays, films. And then he died under suspicious circumstances, leaving behind only questions. If you want to know more about historical mysteries like this, if you refuse to accept simple explanations, subscribe to this channel. Because some mysteries are more important than their solutions. Some questions matter more than answers. And some stories demand to be remembered, even when the truth is lost. On May 26, 1828, a boy walked into Nuremberg and changed history. He claimed to have lived in darkness his entire life. He claimed to be a victim of unspeakable cruelty. And whether he was telling the truth or creating an elaborate fiction, his story touched something deep in the human psyche, the fear of isolation, the horror of being forgotten, the question of what makes us human. Can you lose your humanity if you are deprived of human contact? Can you get it back? Kaspar Hauser spent 5 years in the public eye. 5 years being examined, questioned, doubted, celebrated, condemned. And then, in a snowy park in December, someone ended his life. Or he ended it himself. We will never know. His tombstone calls him riddle of his time. But he is still a riddle. Nearly 200 years later, historians still argue about who he was, still analyze his story, still search for the truth. Some believe he was a tragic victim, a boy who really was imprisoned and then thrust into a world he could not understand. Others believe he was one of history's greatest con artists, a manipulator who invented a fantastic tale and convinced an entire continent. Maybe he was both. Maybe the truth is somewhere in between. Maybe Kaspar Hauser himself did not know who he was. But what we know for certain is this: a boy appeared from nowhere. He lived a strange, impossible life. And he died mysteriously, leaving behind a gravestone that says everything and explains nothing. If this story made you question what is real and what is performance, if it made you wonder about the nature of identity and truth, share it. Because Kaspar Hauser's story is not just about one boy in 1828. It is about all of us. About how we construct our identities. About how we tell our stories. About what happens when the stories we tell become more powerful than the truth. Kaspar Hauser is gone. But the riddle remains.